Hi there, Claire Downham here, your wellbeing guide with today's step from stress and anxiety to inner peace. And I'm going to talk about everything that we put after the word I. We use the word I to identify ourselves, don't we? That and me and my. But when we use the word I, and we often put words like am after it, we can be saying things about ourselves that are coming from perhaps not the most helpful place. And how often do we end up arguing for our limitations, for the things that are not okay about us? We might talk about our beliefs about ourselves, those things that we think we're stuck with, we think they're who we are. Perhaps we talk about our labels. You know, I am a nearly 50-year-old menopausal woman. I've been feeling that the last couple of days, to be fair. But the more we say those things out loud about ourselves, but not just out loud in the world, but actually out loud inside our own heads, we reinforce those limitations on ourselves. And the thing is, those limitations, those things you think about you that are not perhaps particularly helpful, well, they're not who you are anyway. Your limitations are not who you are. Your limitations are really just thought. It's all thought. Everything going through your head right now is thought. It isn't solid. It isn't permanent. It isn't who you are. You're getting misinformation. If there was a legal way to do this, your thoughts may be classed as, I'm going to get this wrong now, slander, libel. I never know which one's the one that's written down. Somebody help me. But actually, there is a place here to sue the goddamn thoughts inside your head for misrepresenting who you are. Because if they were published or spoken out loud in a news article, it would be a pack of lies. And you really would probably be able to take that person to court to prove a load of rubbish had been shared. But yet inside our own heads and how we speak about ourselves, we permit ourselves somehow to speak a load of rubbish about ourselves. And it is a load of rubbish. Because in 1 second, you can drop a belief about yourself and become somebody new, or become somebody else. Because let's just take an example of, I know quite a lot of people who are afraid of public speaking. They are afraid of doing this. Doing a live like this would have been completely outside who I thought I was probably about 18 months ago. This was not something I did. Stepped up here and went live on videos. It just wasn't. It wasn't part of who I thought I was. But in one moment, I just one day picked up my phone and just did it. I just spoke on a live on my own profile somewhere on the internet. I can't remember where. And I did it. So what was that solid thing that I thought was me? Well, it was just some thinking that was getting in the way. And the exciting thing about thinking is it doesn't know a thing about you. It really doesn't know who you are, because you are none of that. You are something so much lighter than that. Those limitations we speak about ourselves have this solid feeling to them. And the more we say them out loud and in our heads, the more solid they appear to be. But that's not who you are. The founder of the understanding that I share Sydney Banks came to this understanding, came to this realization because he thought he was a particular kind of person. He thought he was insecure. And when somebody said to him, "You're not insecure, you just think you are," boom. Literally overnight, his life completely changed. And I encourage you to look in that direction. When you hear yourself saying, "I'm this, I'm that," in a not so positive way, then I encourage you to take that with a pinch of salt. If that's all you can do at the moment, because you don't control the thoughts that come in that are telling you you're this and that, but you do get to decide how seriously to take them. It's not the way you think it is. You are not who you think you are. And where you begin to sprinkle an element of doubt on that message going round and round in your head, as you start to sprinkle a little bit of salt on it, take it with that pinch of salt, you'll start to see how differently you behave, the different things you start to do, because all of your behavior every single day comes from your thinking. That's the root of our behavior. We behave, we feel, we act. That's kind of how it works. So the thinking is the root that causes us to act out in the world, because the thinking produces the feelings. And I suspect when you have a thought about you that's not positive, when you have a thought about your limitations, that creates a feeling that probably either makes you or stops you doing something. Often stops you doing something, because we're talking about limitations here. And it works the other way marvelously as well. How exciting is this creative energy of thought, is that we can have a thought that we can do something and then we go do it. But all of it's thought. It's all thought. And maybe you've been told by somebody, or you've worked out for yourself, that there is a label that you think is you. There is a label of stressed out. There is a label of anxious. There is a label of lacking confidence. There is a label of low self-esteem that you think is rooted in some story of your past. But all of that has this fluid nature, because it's all thought. And it's all much more fluid than we think. I've known people have a rock solid belief that they will never be able to give up smoking, for example. And then something happens in their life, something tragic invariably happens in their life, and overnight they stop smoking. And that can be somebody who saw themselves as a smoker and struggled to see themselves not being a smoker. In any moment, we can change, but there has to be a little bit of an allowing of that. And in that allowing, a little bit of letting go and taking more lightly those limiting thoughts you have about yourself. You are not your thinking. You are something else. You are the one able to observe that you are thinking that limiting thought about yourself. And as you kind of take a step back and start to be more of that person observing it going on, there is some freedom there. There is that lightness, there is that taking it with a pinch of salt. You don't have to carry this stuff around with you. And that doesn't mean that some days you won't feel it and other days you will. And you will have noticed that sometimes those limiting things you think about yourself feel so solid and difficult to move. And then other days they don't seem quite so solid. And you somehow manage to move through them. And that's because you are only ever a thought away from being somebody else, from acting in a different way, from feeling in a different way, from thinking in a different way, because we are this amazing receptacle for thought to pass through. How amazing is that? So there's nothing to do. There's just a tendency to look in a different direction. That sometimes when we think those things are true about us, we spend a lot of time working on them to try and fix them, to try and get rid of those limitations. But maybe just looking in the other direction to what they really are, the lightness of what they really are, is helpful. And if you want to spend more time finding out about that, you know where I am. No doubt, because you're watching me. So thank you so much. I'm Claire Downham, your wellbeing guide, and this has been today's step from stress and anxiety to inner peace. Have a wonderful day and take care. Thank you.